Boom, baby. This is the second episode of the series. What will happen if Naruto was find out why X-Men, and then he goes on having adventure in the both side of the fucking alternate timelines, alternate parallel worlds, or whatever you want to call it. He went his childhood on the obviously Jeva's childhood or whatever mention that is X-Men's mention, and then when he get to the age of at least 12th or 11th 12th or so, he come back at the Kona village and goes and making another kind of travel. So if you like this kind of fanfic, and if you are watching something like this on, you have something on your mind to watch this kind of thing, then subscribe the channel and turn on the bell icon for not only upcoming videos of this series but others as well. So help me complete 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. That's just my small goal. Please do that, and let's begin today's episode without any more delay.
The next day Naruto awoke to the smell of food going through the mansion and he frowned as he got up and walked to the kitchen and found Tenten finishing up breakfast and he looked at the clock and rubbed his eyes and said, "It's 5:40 a.m." Tenten said, "I know. Guy sensei had us get up at 4 every day. I am so used to it now that I can't sleep in." Naruto sighed and said, "You want some help?" Tenten said, "Sure, fix the glasses. Breakfast is almost ready." Naruto nods and went to the fridge to get some orange juice and stopped and stepped back and looked at the garbage and asked, "What happened to my booze?" Tenten said, "I dumped them out. I don't want my sensei to be a drunk." Naruto sighed and said, "I guess I will have to make more." A knife embedded itself in the wall beside his head and he saw Tenten with her hands on her hips glaring at him and she said, "No, you will not." Naruto got scared by the look on her face and thought, "Oh my god, she's channeling my mother. Heaven help me." As he paled and said, "Of course Ten-chan, whatever you say," as he waved his hand in front of him trying to calm the girl down. Tenten seemed to calm down and then sniffed the air and said, "Eek, the eggs are burning," as she quickly got back to cooking. Naruto sighed as she got distracted and got the glasses of OJ. Tenten set the food on the table and she waited until she saw Naruto who was watching her out of his eye take a bite and she asked, "Well?" Naruto chewed it slowly and said, "Pretty good. The only thing I see is missing is what's behind you on the counter." Tenten looked confused and turned to see what he was talking about and saw nothing and so she turned to look at him again and saw a bowl of fresh strawberries on the table. Tenten glared and said, "Hardy, har," as she began to eat. They finished up and Naruto sighed and said, "That was actually really good Tenten. I think I might show you a few French meals Mom and Gambit taught me over the years." Tenten said, "Thanks, so where can I put my stuff?" Naruto blinked and asked, "What stuff?" Tenten said, "Well, when I got home last night I thought it over and it does not make sense for me to be at my place all the way across town and have to travel every morning, so I packed everything up and moved in last night and just slept in the library on the couch. I thought it would make sense for me to stay here while you teach me." Naruto said, "You could have asked." Tenten said, "I'm asking now, so can I stay here?" Naruto looked at her and sighed and he saw the puppy eye no jutsu she was giving him and said, "Alright, you win." Tenten smiled to herself and asked, "So what room is mine?" Naruto said, "I guess," and he quickly spun around with his wrist blades extended inside a moment later and said, "Not wise Kakashi." As Kakashi appeared with a cup of coffee in his hand sitting on the counter and said, "Not to worry, I will use a coaster." Naruto growled as he withdrew his blades and said, "So what's up, copycat?" Kakashi put the cup down and said, "Hello, who might you be?" Tenten said, "I am Cash." Kakashi raised an eyebrow and said, "I see, well, I'm Hataki Kakashi and I came by to inform you both there been a slight change of plans in the mission details." Naruto frowned and asked, "What's up?" Kakashi said, "Yesterday a scroll arrived at the front gates and was left with the guards on duty. It was taken to the Hokage, who after reading it has decided to investigate what the scroll said. It has been decided that you and your new teammate are to investigate the information on the scroll and notify Konoha if it's real. Naruto frowned and asked, "Why is though? Something you're not telling us?" Kakashi nods and said, "The scroll contained a video in it. The Hokage looked at it and immediately ordered for you to be the one to investigate it. Apparently the video showed basically the same thing as the video the Hokage saw all those years ago of you." Naruto's eyes went wide and asked, "So you're saying someone is doing genetic manipulations of people?" Kakashi said, "We don't know. All we know is it a small island in sea country, and the Hokage believes with your own experience then you would be the best to determine exactly what's going on and deal with the problem. Human experimentation is not very well looked on here. The Hokage said for you to leave as soon as possible. The details are in this scroll. Well, I must be going. Both of you take care now. Saya." As he left in a puff of smoke and left a scroll on the counter. Naruto walked over and read it and said, "So, do you want to come or stay here?" The Hokage left it optional for you. As he handed the scroll to her. Tenten read it and said, "No, I'm your teammate, so I am going. The only problem is most of my supplies are packed from moving here and will take me a while to find." Naruto said, "Follow me. I think I can fix that for now." As he put his and her dishes in a dishwasher and then lead her out of the kitchen. They stopped outside of the armory and Naruto said, "Come on, I think it's time to get you some new threads." As he opened the door and walked inside. Tenten followed and asked, "Threads?" Naruto said, "Sorry, it's slang for cloths. I think we got some of the new outfits that will work for you. Here we go." As he stopped in front a huge room and Naruto said, "This is where most of the spare battle outfits are kept, but since no one else but me has been in this room, all these things are brand new, so go ahead and find you something to wear in this room. It don't matter what, I will be getting my weapons and then we can get yours as well." As he left her alone. Tenten looked like a kid in a candy store as she started to find her a new look. Around 10 minutes later, Naruto was sitting dressed just like he did when he was saying goodbye to his mom before, including having all his weapons. Most of the time in the village he had only the basics. Tenten walked into the room and Naruto's eyes went wide-eyed when he looked at her as his eyes took in the sight of her. She was now dressed in a pair of black leather pants with combat boots, a black, nanotech shirt that had a V-cut around the neck and a hole at her stomach showing her stomach while swirled around it and went inside the pants. On top of the shirt she had a crimson-red vest that was unbuttoned but could hold multiple items along with the pants. It had built-in body mesh body armor. Her hair was no longer in the buns they were before but now in a single ponytail with a steel industrial strength ultra small and strong wire. She had an elbow guard for both arms that had a small spike on each side and red belt with an X-Man communicator on it. Tenten saw Naruto's stunned expression as she looked at him and saw the new things he had on that he never wore in the village, and she smiled as he tried to move his mouth and asked, "So how do I look?" Naruto finally shook his head and said, "Great. I think the look suits you. By the way, how did you get the belt buckle?" Tenten smiled and said, "I found your stash and took one from it and added it to this belt. You said I could get anything." Naruto nods and said, "Right, well, I got weapons on the table over here for you. I think all of them are the same things you usually carry since I got them all here in the village. I don't have time to train you in anything else right now, so go ahead and get ready while I take care of some final things." As he walked out of the room not looking at her. Tenten giggles as he walked away and thought, "That's the first time I seen him speechless. I got to keep this look." As she went and started to grab kunais, shurikens, exploding tags, first aid kits, and other standard items. Naruto, after leaving the armory, went to the war room and closed the door before going to the computer and typing in some stuff, and then a static noise could be heard and he said, "War room 2 to war room 1, come in. This is Echo." A few moments went by and a voice said, "Go ahead, Echo, this is Storm." Naruto said, "Storm, I might have a new lead on Apocalypse here. Konoha has recently received some intel that the Hokage believes could be another human experimentation lab like the one he used on me. I am being sent to investigate. This could be a trap and I have one person as backup. I have given her the code name Cash. This could be a trap, so I would like for anyone who wants to prepare a standby team to send here should I need assistance if this is a trap." Storm said. "Understood, Echo. You need to be careful on this and don't take any risk and stay calm. We don't want you losing control again. I will have Cyclops and myself prepare 2 teams and have 1 team on standby at all times until you return or need assistance." "Is that all?" Naruto said. "Yeah, I just got a bad feeling about this mission and Logan always told me to trust my instincts." "Thanks, Storm." Echo out. As he ended the broadcast, Naruto walked out and found Tenten waiting in the hall and said, "I hope you're ready." Tenten said, "Yeah, how long do you think it will take us to get there?" Naruto said, "About 2 hours." Tenten blinked and asked, "What do you mean?" "Sea country is nearly a week's travel from here since you got 3 days sea travel." Naruto said, "You will see, come on." As he led her down the hall and soon came to a room labeled hangar. As they walked in, Tenten saw a big black machine and asked, "What's that?" Naruto said, "That's the X-Jet. We could take it, but I want to get in without being noticed if possible, so we're taking the Skyhopper." Tenten went wide-eyed and said, "Wait, you mean you got one of those that you told me about?" Naruto nods and said, "Yeah. I hope you don't get air sick." "Oh well." As he led her into a second hangar where she saw another machine similar to the black one, but this one was only about a fourth of the size of it, and Naruto climbed a set of stairs and typed a code on a keypad and the lid popped open and he grabbed a helmet and climbed in the pilot seat as he put it on and said, "Are you coming?" Tenten came out of her shock and ran up the stairs and saw a second seat and got in and grabbed the helmet, and Naruto said, "Don't be surprised when things move back there. The jet's automatic safety features put a belt on you to protect you. Ready?" Tenten said in a stuttery voice, "Sure." Naruto smiled and the lid closed as the controls came to life and Tenten saw the room outside of the jet went dark and slowly a light appeared overhead as she looked and saw something moving that was metal, and then she heard a weird noise as the jet started to shake. She started looking around and Naruto heard her thoughts of being scared and he said, "Relax, it's safe, I promise." Tenten calmed down a little until the jet moved up a little and she, "Eep," as it started to move toward the light. In the Hokage office, the third was looking out the window and thought, "I hope this mission turns out okay. I don't want to see either of those kids hurt." Just then he saw several trees on the other side of the village raise up around 30 feet in the air as birds flew away from that area, and then he saw something fly away from that area really quick. Just then his window shattered as a sonic boom was heard and he thought, "It has to be Naruto." Tenten screamed as they blasted off as she closed her eyes, and after several moments of no death coming she opened her eyes and saw they were flying through clouds, and she looked out the window and saw the ground fly by extremely fast, and Naruto said, "See, I told you it would be okay." Tenten asked, "Did you have to go so fast?" Naruto said, Not really, but I wanted to." Tenten shook her head as she still held on to her pant legs for dear life. Several hours later, after flying, Naruto said, "Well, according to the computers, that island up ahead is the one we are looking for, so." As his eyes got cloudy and a mist started covering the water in front of the aircraft as they approached the island. Tenten, who had calmed down mostly, just kept quiet, not wanting to distract Naruto. They flew toward the far side of the island and Naruto saw a little canyon cove and he slowly landed the Skyhopper in it. Once they were on the ground and got out, Naruto slid open a side compartment and grabbed a remote and pushed a black button in the remote and the jet disappeared. Tenten went wide-eyed and asked, "Where is it?" Naruto reached his hand up and knocked and Tenten heard the sound of metal and Naruto said, It's still here, it's just got a cloaking shield on it. Think of it as a genjutsu. Tenten said. I swear these machines are at times better than any ninjutsu. Naruto said. Sometimes and in others it's not. Here. As he pulled out 2 brown cloaks and handed one to her. Once they put it on, Naruto said, let's head toward that village we saw as we flew in about 2 miles from here. See if we can get any info on any labs or anything strange or people disappearing. Tenten asked. Why people disappearing? Naruto said. If it is human experimentation, then they need test subjects. Now let's go. As he started to walk away. Tenten said. Hey, who made you leader? Naruto said. You did, apprentice. With a smirk on his face. Tenten frowned and thought. Smart ass. Naruto said. I heard that. Tenten growled but said nothing. About 20 minutes later they arrived in the village and Naruto frowned and said, okay, what's wrong with this village? Tenten looked around and said, everyone staring at us. An old woman in her 60s walked up and asked, how did you escape? Where are the others? Please, where are they? As she became frantic in her speech. Naruto stepped forward and said, whoa, slow down, what are you talking about? The woman said, the monster, the sea monster, it came and kidnapped all the children and took them away. Please, you must know where they are, please tell us. Naruto said, look, we just got here on the island. We were on a ship that sunk and we were lucky to make it to the island. We rested last night and just found the island. Can you tell me what sea monster you were talking about? A man in his 30s said, about a year ago, a sea creature was seen on the west side of the island. It was heading toward an old cabin on the beach. Some girl who has bandages on her lives there, and we believe the girl was helping the monster. After the day that it was seen, children from our village started going missing one by one. We have went by the cabin several times, but the girl has also disappeared, but the sea creature can be seen coming out of the sea and heading toward the cabin every now and then. The only thing we have to go on is the girl said that they were being taken away to a prison before she disappeared after we forced her to talk. Please, you must get away from here before whatever it is gets you. Please. Naruto's eyes darkened and said, exactly what did you mean by when you said you forced her to talk? Another man who was drunk stepped forward and had a sake bottle in his hand and said, we beat her until her lips loosened. The reason she has those bandages on is because she has some ugly skin disease. I was so afraid of catching it I had to burn my cloths after it since they had her blood on it. Tenten narrowed her eyes and then she jumped back as a bolt of lightning struck the sake bottle and caused it to explode in flames, burning the man, who screamed as he fell to the ground holding his hands and face. Naruto said, it seems Kami does not like the ideas of you attacking children. Perhaps he has struck you down with whatever that poor girl had. If what you said is true, the sea monster could have been trying to take her as well, and you just abused an innocent girl who might have told you where the children are, since she might have escaped from there, but now odds are the reason she disappeared is because one of you, like that man, has went back and killed her. I think I would rather take my chances with the sea monster if this is how you treat children. Come on, Cash. Let's get out of here and find a way out of here. As he turned and walked back away from the village. Tenten followed, and when they were away Tenten asked, so what do you think? Naruto frowned and said, I think our sea monster is actually someone's who's been experimented on. The girl might also have been one. As he walked over and slung his arm in front of a tree as his blade came out and sliced the tree as it started to fall, and Naruto had a block and ice chute form under the tree and it slid into the water. Tenten looked confused and asked, what's that for? Naruto said, hop on and you will see. As he jumped on and walked the length of the tree that was now floating in water, while he stopped every couple of feet and planted a kunai in both sides of the log. Tenten jumped over and landed on it, and Naruto said, hold on to the tree with chakra and hold on to a tree limb also, we're about to move. Tenten was quickly learning one thing. When Naruto said something stupid like that, there is a reason why. Doing as he said, she soon got her answer as the tree started to move through the water around the island. Naruto looked at the land and asked, "You see anything on the island that looks like it might be good to investigate?" Tenten looked as they circled the island and said, "The only thing I can see that shows any sign of anyone is the village we already went to and the cabin they talked about." Naruto frowned and said, "That's all I see as well. I guess we have no choice but to check out that cabin then." Tenten looked at Naruto and asked, "Why did we not just head there first after we left the village? Why make this makeshift raft and then circle the island?" Naruto sighed and said, "I am afraid of what we will find when we get there. I wanted to calm myself down from what that guy said because I got the feeling they did more than they said to her, and I got the feeling that I would turn around and kill them all if I am right, so I wanted to calm down before heading there." Tenten looked at the island and said, "It's okay, I understand. You're right, but you forget one thing." Naruto looked at her and asked, "What's that?" Tenten pulled out a kunai and said, "That is if there is anything left of them after I get done with them," with a gleam in her eye. Naruto looked at her and smiled and said, "Thanks." Tenten asked, "For what?" Naruto shook his head and said, "Nothing. Old cabin, here we come," as he steered the log toward the west side of the island. Tenten looked at him and smiled to herself and thought, "No problem, Naruto. I understand how personal this must be for you. The Hokage was right about one thing: you do seem to be happy when you talk about your family. At least you can't hear my thoughts when I don't want you to." Flashback. Tenten had just left Naruto place and was heading toward her place when the Hokage came walking toward her and asked, "How are you today, Tenten?" Tenten bowed and said, "Hokage-sama, what are you doing here?" The third chuckled and said, "Relax, I just thought I would take a walk around the village before heading home today, so don't be so formal, just call me Saratobi." Tenten said, "I couldn't, Hokage-sama. You're the leader of our village and the most powerful person in the village, you deserve to be treated with respect." The third sighed and said, "But I am still a person, Tenten. You have to realize that even if people are super strong or different or weak, that they are all people, and as such they are not gods or demons. Sometimes people just throw their feet up and laugh just to feel alive." Tenten listened to him and said, "I think I understand, Saratobi-sama." The third chuckled and said, "I suppose it's a start. There's times I am glad there are people like Echo here in Konoha. He only shows me respect when he absolutely has to. Other than that, or when it's just the two of us, he calls me Gigi." Tenten giggled at the nickname and said, "Yeah, he has a way for names. He calls me Cash." The third said, "Oh really? Why?" as he looked at her. Tenten said, "It's because the first time he met me, he used his powers to gather all my weapons into a pile. It was 3 times taller than I am, sir. He says I am a weapons cache, so he gave me the code name Cash." The third nods and said, "Well, I think it suits you. I could put it on your official registration as a name for you. I have done the same thing for Echo." As he looked at her, Tenten said, "Yeah, I like his code name, but I think his real name suits him better." The third said, "Yes, Naruto is quite a unique name, huh? It can mean either a ramen topping or a maelstrom." Tenten went wide-eyed a moment and the third said, "Relax, I have known him since the day he was born. I know him and his parents when they were alive. So he must trust you pretty well to tell you his real name. Besides myself, only one other person knows it for sure. The clan heads think they know it, but I won't confirm it, but besides them no one does." Tenten relaxed and asked, "Who were his parents?" The third said, "I can't tell you. It's personal for him for some reason. He will trust you when he wants." Tenten frowned and said, "He trusts me but not completely, and he can just read my mind to prepare for anything I ask, so it's not fair." The third said, "I can tell you something to fix that problem, but I would only use it when you really don't want him to hear what you're thinking." I mean, he has trouble trusting people, and if you cut off one of the ways he has to try and understand you, then he might start distancing himself from you. He doesn't trust Konoha for several reasons, and he's also afraid to be hurt. I think he's closing himself off more and more every day, and that was why I decided to approve your request to keep him from closing off completely. I trust you not to destroy the trust he gives you, because if you do, I can almost guarantee you won't get it back. Tenten sighs and said, I understand. I actually think I understand him better than that. The third sighs and said, well, I must be going. Tenten said, wait, what is the way to keep him out of my head? The third said, oh, that. Why do you want to know? Tenten said, hey, a girl wants her privacy. The third chuckled and said, oh, it's simple really. Just channel chakra to your temples. It's a great way to get rid of hangovers and little mind readers. I must be going. See you around, Cash. As he started to walk away, Tenten thought over what he said and asked, wait, what is the other reason you agreed to put me on a team with him? I mean, there has to be more of a reason then to keep him from closing off. I mean, hunter nins are often closed off and you don't worry about them, so why this time? The third said, I see you have a habit of looking underneath the underneath always. It must be something in your genes. I guess you could say I want to make sure he's happy, and the only way he seems to be happy is when he talks about family. I thought you might someday fill that role for him. As he started to walk away, Tenten frowned, looking down, and then said, hey, you're just playing matchmaker. As she looked back up and saw the third was gone. End flashback. As they arrived at the old cabin, Naruto looked around and said, it seems someone has been here recently. Tenten asked, what makes you so sure? Naruto walked around the house to the side and moved a bush with his hand and said, someone has been cleaning fish and hiding the remains here. As he showed 3 fish heads that look fresh. Tenten asked, so what should we do? Naruto frowned and said, I think we should take up positions around the house for surveillance while setting up camp a little ways away, since we need to rest also. What do you think? Tenten said, sound like our only option. You go ahead and set up camp and I will take first watch. Naruto said, no, I will take first watch after we set up camp together. Then you will rest and then we will trade off every 10 hours. 8 hours of sleep and 2 hours to prepare a meal each way for us to share and discuss any changes. What do you say? Tenten frowned and said, all right, let's set up camp. Both left quickly to set up camp, never noticing the girl who was sitting in the water near the cabin, who swam away after they left. It took Naruto and Tenten about an hour to set up camp with a smokeless fire and to catch some fish from a nearby stream and eat them. Naruto stood after they ate in silence and said, listen, Tenten, if anything happens and you need help, hit the radio on your belt. I don't want to see you get hurt, and don't fight alone. I will be here in moments using my powers to help you fight. Tenten said, don't worry, I'm a big girl and can take care of myself. But I will listen to you. As she saw the worry he had on his face, Naruto nods and leaves, and Tenten lays down on her sleeping bag and fell asleep a little later. Naruto went and took up a position in a tree where he could see the house and waited. About 4 hours later, Tenten awoke when she heard a twig snap and she looked around. She thought as she looked around, who could that be? It's too early for Naruto. I don't see or feel anyone's chakra. Wait, what's that? As she saw a bush shake, she slowly walked over to it while holding a kunai. As she looked around, she slowly reached for the bush to push it aside while thinking, it must be a rabbit or other small animal. Looks like we won't be having fish. As she jerked the bush trying to flush the animal out. Just as she did, a snake shot out and bit her in the neck, and she tried to scream but couldn't as she felt her body becoming stiff. She then saw someone slowing merging out of the ground as her eyes widened as she recognized the person. The snake Sanin himself, Orochimaru. Orochimaru said, well, what do we have here? I lone little leaf ninja. What are you doing here of all the places, I wonder? I guess my little trap worked, but I was wanting the boy, Echo. I was told he was here as well, so I guess I will use you to get him. Take her to the doctor. As Tenten felt someone come and grab her by the arms and started to carry her away over Thier's shoulder. Tenten screamed in her head. Help! Naruto! Help! Can you hear me? Help! As she was being dragged away. At the same time this is happening, Naruto saw someone slowly walking out of the water, and he saw it was a girl with fish scales and fins, and Naruto watched as her fins retracted into her skin and she slowly turned to look more normal, but still had places where her fins were that looked different. Naruto thought, so I was right. As he watched her move to the house, but she stopped at the door and said, you might as well come in. I saw you and the girl. As she walked inside, Naruto sweat dropped and thought, well, that was interesting. As he landed on the ground below and walked to the house. When he got in, he saw the girl had already wrapped bandages around her skin, and she said, so you're Echo? Naruto narrowed his eyes and asked, how do you know that? The girl said, I was told to give this to you when you arrived. As she pulled out a scroll that was in a plastic tube so it would not get wet, and she handed it to him. Naruto took the scroll and read, hello Echo. I am glad to see you accepted my request to come here. You are to surrender to this girl, who will then lead you to my base, or your teammate is dead. Naruto never finished reading the rest as he used slip to disappear and reappear at the came and said, Tenten, can you hear me, Tenten? As he looked around, he saw she was gone, so he hit his radio and said, Echo to Cash, come in Cash. A voice came across the radio, said in a sinister hissing voice, hello my dear Echo. I see you must have gotten my note by now. Naruto said, who is this? The voice said, oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. I am the snake Sanin Orochimaru. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, what do you want, Orochimaru, and where is Cash? Orochimaru laughed and said, hehehehe, the girl. You could say she is here in my little lab as a guest. I had originally only wanted you since you and those special abilities of yours have caught my eye, but I am always looking for new little lab rats, and I think this little girl would make a fine one. Now if you don't want the girl to die, you will go back and do as the letter said. You have 1 hour, and don't try calling for help or do anything suspicious. I have you being watched even now by my summons. Naruto said. Wait, how do you know about me, and how do you know how to use this radio? Silence was all he heard, and he became pissed and slammed his fist into a tree and thought, you will die, Snake. You will die. As he turned and started to walk back to the cabin, as he discreetly flipped the lid on his belt buckle and pressed a button inside of it before closing it back shut. As he was walking back to the cabin inside the war room, a computer came to life and the central computer began to flash, and a voice said, War Room 1 here, Echo, report. Back in the X Mansion, Jean, Storm, Gambit, and Rogue were all sitting in the war room when suddenly the relay to the X Mansion in Konoha came to life and they all tensed. Jean touched the computer and said, War Room 1 here, Echo, report. Silence was answered for a few moments until they heard, Echo to Cash, come in Cash. Hello my dear Echo. I see you must have gotten my note by now. Who is this? Oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. I am the snake Sanin Orochimaru. What do you want, Orochimaru, and where is Cash? Hehehehe. The girl. You could say she is here in my little lab as a guest. I had originally only wanted you since you and those special abilities of yours have caught my eye, but I am always looking for new little lab rats, and I think this little girl would make a fine one. Now if you don't want the girl to die, you will go back and do as the letter said. You have 1 hour, and don't try calling for help or do anything suspicious. I have you being watched even now by my summons. Wait, how do you know about me, and how do you know how to use this radio? All of the X-Men listened to it and each got a look of anger on their face as the message started to repeat, and Storm said, We must inform the professor. Rogue asked, Who's this Cash person? Jean said. I don't know. He never mentioned her when I talked to him. Gambit said. Me thinks she might be his lady friend. Rogue glared and said. My son has a girlfriend and he hasn't told me. I'm going to kill him. Jean said. Calm down, Rogue. We need to inform the professor and find out what he wants us to do. Rogue nods and asked. Wait, where's Storm? As she looked around. Gambit said. She already left, most likely to inform the professor. Back with Naruto. He walked into the cabin and picked up the scroll and read it and all the way. He sighed and said, Fine. As he took off his weapons and set them on a table and then put his hand behind his back. The girl walked over and placed a tag on each of his arms as well as his feet and one on his neck and said, I'm sorry but I have no choice. They promised me they would release me and turn me back human if I did this. Naruto said, You will never be back to normal again. Once someone changes a person as much as they have you, it is impossible to fix it. Now that I have these tags on, what now? As he tried to move his arms and legs and found they would not respond and he couldn't turn his neck either. The girl said, You are to wait here while I go and signal for the boat. Naruto heard her leave and he tried to use his powers and frowned and thought, the tag on my neck must be blocking the signals to my body. The only thing I have is telepathy and even that is not much use right now. Just then the door to the cabin opened up and he heard a male voice say nighty, night, as he felt someone hit him in the back of the neck and scream out in pain. Naruto smirked and said, What was that? The man said, Damn, his neck feels like steel. It's a good thing the doctor gave us this. As he pulled out a needle and shot it into Naruto's arm. Naruto thought, Dumb asses, sedatives don't work on me since I become immune to them. Guess I can play along to save Tenten. As he pretended to start to pass out while his body collapsed. He felt two pairs of hands grab him and he heard one grunt and said, Damn, how much does he weigh? As they dragged him and felt his feet drag across sand and then a little water before being pulled on a boat and then dropped hard. It took everything he had not to grunt in pain from that. He then heard a motor start up and begin moving away. About an hour later Naruto heard the motor shut off and he felt the boat shift as it hit something and he realized it must be a dock. He felt himself being picked up and dragged but a moment later he was dropped on the wood of the dock and he heard one of the men say, Stay here with the boat, bitch. You're not needed until later. As he slapped the girl across the face. Naruto mentally thought, That's another one to die. He then felt himself picked up and dragged away again. A few minutes later he came in a room that was filled with several lights because he could see the brightness through his eyelids. He then felt something hard slapped adjacent his back as his arm and legs were pulled to each side of him and then felt something go around his arms and legs and neck. A sickening laugh was heard and a voice Naruto recognized as Orochimaru said, You may leave us. He heard feet walking away and then he felt someone raise his shirt up over his belly and then another shot in his arm as a voice he did not recognize say, This should wake him in a few minutes Orochimaru-sama and I don't see any signs of the seal you notified me about. Naruto waited around 4 minutes and then let out a groan as he slowly opened high eyes and looked around as much as he could with his neck bound and he saw a tall man with black hair and pale skin with yellow eyes looking at him. Beside the man was another man who had gray hair and a gray shirt with a lab coat over the top of it. He saw he was in a rock cave with lights all over the place. Naruto said, Where is Cash? Orochimaru stepped for and said, My dear Echo, I have been extremely interested in seeing you ever since my spies were notified about your return by Danzo. I am always looking for more useful tools and I have heard all about how your special abilities you use daily so I thought I would see if I could reproduce what has been done to you. Now since I know who you really are boy I know none of your abilities came from your parents Namikaze. Naruto growled and said, Sorry, but you got the wrong guy. Orochimaru grin widened and said, I don't think so boy. In fact I think I know just what to do with you. Doctor. Naruto then saw something he immediately recognized and screamed, "Where the hell did you get that?" Orochimaru smiled evilly and said, "My spies found it in Danzo possession along with a scroll detailing what it does. I must say after I heard about it I became even more interested in you." Naruto got a scared look on his face as the object was placed around his neck. He looked at Orochimaru and said, "I will kill you, Orochimaru, very very slowly and painfully." And Orochimaru held up a small control and pressed a button and Naruto screamed as he felt his entire body shocked before he passed out. As Naruto passed out, the doctor looked at Orochimaru and asked, "What exactly is that device, Orochimaru-sama?" Orochimaru said, "It's called a mutant slave collar. It makes it where he is unable to use any of his abilities as well as make it where I can torture him at the push of a button. I must say if I had another one I would take it apart and reproduce it, but now I have to wait until the boy is of no further use. You may proceed, doctor. I shall return in 2 weeks and I expect results." As he left. As Orochimaru left, the girl walked up to him and said, "Orochimaru-sama, when can I be changed back human?" Orochimaru looked at her and after several moments said, "When I have finished making sure it will work. I don't want to lose my favorite little pet." As he handed the control to her and said, "Return that to the doctor and tell him to be careful with that and I will see him in 2 months instead. I need to check on some other projects." As he left. The girl bowed and went to the doctor and said, "Forgive me, Amachi-sama, but." She was slapped across the face by Amachi, who said, "Leave, I do not wish to be disturbed." The girl bows and left, still holding onto the control, and said, "Sorry, Amachi-sama." As she left and she ran away from the doctor and looked at the object in her hand and threw it across the cave, and she ran down the tunnel until she got to the water cove was and she jumped in it and began to swim away with tears in her eyes. The next day the Sandame was in his office doing paperwork when a shout from the other side of the door said, "I am sorry people, but you can't see the Hokage without an appointment." As suddenly a body flew through the door and several people came walking in. The Sandiame looked at them, recognizing a few as X-Men, and he said, "What's going on here and why have you barged into my office like this?" A voice from the door said, "Forgive Rogue Saratobi, but since her son is in danger she's having trouble showing restraint." As he saw Xavier floating into the office in a metal chair. The third said, "What are you talking about?" Xavier said, "Late yesterday evening we received an emergency broadcast from Echo. Allow me to play it." As he pressed a button and the third heard, "Echo to Cash, Echo to Cash, come in Cash. Hello my dear Echo. I see you must have gotten my note by now. Who is this? Oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. I am the snake Sanin Orochimaru. What do you want, Orochimaru, and where is Cash?" Hehehehe. The girl. You could say she is here in my little lab.
So how was the video? If you like it, then why don't you subscribe the channel and turn on the bell icon for upcoming videos and upcoming series on the channel. And if you have any kind of suggestion, or if you have if you want to express your emotions or experience on this video, why don't you go to the comment section and tell us about it. So if you like it, then subscribe, share, and watch it once more with your friends. See you later.